It's another edition of Time About the Movies. We're looking at the movies of September 20th, 1991. 7 movies to look at, and we're going to start off with some movies that are not quite as memorable. But I'm not going to waste any more time with it. Let's just get right on into it. Let's start with that first movie, and that is Late for Dinner. I get the feeling that Mel Gibson saw this movie and said, I could probably do this movie maybe a little bit better, because he pretty much did the same thing with Forever Young, where you have a guy who was like frozen in time for a long period of time, then he comes back into the modern age and then falls in love. And I don't know, it's a concept that has a lot of good ideas to potentially work, but neither that movie nor this movie I don't think really does it all that well. The ideas are there. I think the acting is very good with the actors they have: Brian Wimmer, Peter Berg, Marcia Gay Harden, Peter Gallagher. A good cast overall here, but I don't know, the execution in this one didn't really pan out as well. Despite the great actors they have involved here, it felt kind of generic. It felt very formulaic. It felt like a script that you kind of knew where everything was going to go, and it was a movie that just really didn't work for me. It was one of those movies that I was really looking forward to is a long time ago when I first heard about it, and then when I finally got to see it recently, it was just like, yeah, this really didn't live up to the expectations that I thought I had coming into it. But it's not a bad movie. It's just one that's just kind of there. It's just kind of like vapor. You watch it once and then you immediately forget about it a day or two later. And that's pretty much what happened with this particular movie. So, not off to a great start here with Late for Dinner, but surely we'll get better with our next movie, and that is Living Large. What the hell was that? I mean, I I got nothing on this one. I don't know what this movie was trying to be. I don't know who wrote this. This writer I've never even heard of. This is directed by the guy who did The Last Dragon. I mean, that was a fun movie in its own right, but I don't know what the hell is going on with this movie. I mean, this feels like a movie that's intended more for an African American audience, but it's also trying to be more mainstream so that people of other colors and other races can go into it and enjoy it. And I don't think anybody would want to see that after watching this this. It's not just the TV spot that I just showed you. I watched the trailer for myself. The trailer's even more ridiculous. It's a concept that maybe could work under the right hands. I mean, they have a decent director here who has made some decent stuff, but the script just feels like something that was manufactured from a studio that's trying to appeal to a younger generation, and they just don't know how to do it. It's like with any corporation, they try the lowest common denominator to appeal to a younger generation, or a generation of a different race or a different color or a different religion, all that type of stuff, and it's just like it just doesn't work, and it shows when it doesn't work, where there's no real effort there to put it. Like, get a real writer to make something like this, and maybe you'd have something, but this just looks terrible on so many levels. I mean, I got nothing on this one. I mean, it like I said, it looks terrible, so yeah, probably not going to watch that one anytime soon. With that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and now we're talking, it's McBain. And this is why you need Christopher Walken to be weird in nearly every single movie is in, because when you try to give him a straight performance, it turns into this movie. I mean, this is just a lousy movie on so many levels. It's not just Walken that's bad in this. Unfortunately, you also have Maria Conchita Alonso, who's a great action actress from the time. Michael Ironside's also in here. There's potential here, but just the script, it's another generic script. It's a really bad script that doesn't really do anything to make anything special out of it. It's just go in there, do a typical action movie, cliched riddled film. Let me rephrase that. Do a cliche riddled action movie, a typical cliche riddled action movie, and then boom, there you go. And it's just, the sad part is, the name McBain originally came from The Simpsons, and even though this movie didn't do well whatsoever, they were actually told to not use the name McBain for The Simpsons during this time period. I don't know if that's when they came up with the actor who played McBain, Rainier Wolfcastle, Toyboat, Rainier Wolfcastle, but it's weird because there was that brief period where they couldn't use the name McBain, but but obviously that didn't last very long because they pretty much used it after this movie came out and flopped at the box office. And really, I don't have any more to say about this one. This is just a bad movie. It's bad because it's not just a bad cliche riddled action film, but it's a toned down Christopher Walken performance. And I'm sorry, Christopher Walken's usually the best when he's playing that weird, chaotic, crazy person in movies. Like, anytime he gives a good, crazy, weird, chaotic performance, it automatically makes the movie a little bit better. I mean, The Country Bears would not be enjoyably fun as it is if it wasn't for Christopher Walken having a huge part in that movie. And, yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about this one. McBain is, pretty bad. So we are definitely not off to a good start this week, but we do at least get into the swing of things with our next movie, and that is Robert Duvall, Diane Ladd, and Laura Dern in Rambling Rose. Well, I can honestly say that it was certainly a lot better than the last three movies we looked at, but I say that in a good way because this is a really good movie, and it's largely because of the great performances all throughout the film. You have the previously mentioned Laura Dern and Diane Ladd. You have Robert Duvall, John Hurd from Home Alone, Lucas House. The director of this is Martha Coolidge, who would actually go on to direct a couple of pretty good movies later on in this decade, including Out to Sea, a very underrated Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau movie. She also did Lost in Yonkers, which came out a couple years later. She also did before this Real Genius and Valley Girl. So she is a good director, and these are a lot of good performances that are really carrying this movie overall. It's a wonderfully well-made film. Visually, it looks pretty impressive. They did a pretty good job of creating this sepia tone feeling of the 1970s with some of the cinematography they do here. And it is an overall really good movie. It's a well-made film, well-directed, well-acted, well-written. It's a great film. It's a really good film. If you haven't seen Rambling Rose, I can't recommend it enough. Definitely check it out. But we come to easily the best movie that came out this entire weekend, and that is Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges and Terry Gilliam's The Fisher King. I mean, one of the things that strikes you right off the bat is that even if you've never seen a Terry Gilliam movie, you can look at that trailer and see a lot of his cinematic and unique styles of filmmaking that he usually puts into his movies. I mean, even if you've never seen the Monty Python movies, you could definitely tell there's something very different than what you would usually see from a director of this type of film. But really, this really is the best movie that came out this weekend. One of the best movies of the year, no question about it. And it does work in showing that Terry Gilliam can be very good at directing something outside of his norm. This was one of his first major projects he did outside of the Monty Python series. This was actually the last film that he did. This was the first film he did after The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. He did it because he was tired of doing big-budget special effects films. And so he did this movie, and it really shows how great of a director he can really be. And it also helps that you have a great script by Richard LaGravenese. I will get it right. Richard LaGravenese. Am I saying that right?
Richard LaGravenese.
That was close. Now I can't remember it again.
Richard LaGravenese.
Richard LaGravenese. Okay.
Richard LaGravenese.
Okay. So, Richard LaGravenese, who writes a really good script, and of course you have all these great performances. Robin Williams giving another great performance that got him an Oscar nomination. Jeff Bridges, who gives a really good performance in this. He was unfortunately not nominated. Mercedes Ruehl, who was not only nominated, but she ended up winning Best Supporting Actress, and she really does give it her all in this movie. She really is one of the strongest performances of the film. You also have Amanda Plummer, Michael Jeter, David Hyde Pierce, Harry Shearer, Kathleen the Jimmy, John Delancey. Just a great cast overall, working with this wonderful script and this great direction by Terry Gilliam. It's a wonderful film, a very good, well-made film. I can't recommend this movie enough. It's one of the best movies that came out this particular year. Definitely see The Fisher King if you haven't seen it already. It's kind of required viewing, honestly, in my opinion. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Don Johnson, Melanie Griffith, and Elijah Wood in Paradise. And another movie that looks like it could have been the ABC TV Movie of the Week or the CBS, NBC, Fox, Lifetime Movie of the Week, those type of things. I mean, honestly, it really does feel that way. The director of this, I don't even know what other work she's done. Mary Agnes Donahue. Let me see. I mean, she wrote okay, she did one redeemable thing, and that was the script for Beaches. But other than that, though, yeah, there's really nothing else on her resume that really sticks out, quite honestly. And it's not that the movie is bad or anything. It's just, like I said, it's just another movie that's disguising itself as as something that it actually isn't. Like, it's like if you took these actors out and put somebody else in there, or even just put this movie on TV, you really couldn't tell the difference between a TV movie of the week or a theatrical release. And it's a shame, because there could be something good here with this. I mean, these people aren't bad actors. I mean, everybody here is doing their best. I mean, you've got Elijah Wood in here, Thora Birch, Don Johnson, Melanie Griffith. They've been great actors in the past, and this movie just doesn't really work. It's just a movie that, like I said, it just feels like a film that could have been on TV for the Sunday night movie of the week, and didn't even need to be in a theater. And really, there's no real reason for this to be in a theater. The only reason this was in a theater because Disney wanted to copy the success of Beaches, but Beaches worked a lot better than this movie did on so many other levels. This just feels like a movie that was just a TV movie of the week blown up for the big screen. I mean, that's really all I gotta say about this one. Yeah, not very good. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is Sean Penn's The Indian. So not only was the Sean Penn's movie that he directed, this was the first movie he directed as a whole. He would also go on to do movies like with a couple of Jack Nicholson films, I should say, The Crossing Guard and The Pledge. He would do Into the Wild, which I think is his best directorial film, The Last Face, and Flag Day. And as you can tell in the trailer, David Morse and Viggo Mortensen played the two brothers in this movie. And I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really comment on it, but it looks really good. I mean, like, I don't think Sean Penn is a bad director. I think he's a great actor too, but I think really his strongest film as a director to me was Into the Wild. I thought that movie really worked to his advantages as a filmmaker, and you could definitely see a lot of those elements of Into the Wild in here. And most of the movies he's directed have been okay. They haven't been as good. They haven't been groundbreaking films. Like I said, the real breakout was Into the Wild, but this looks like it could be something a little bit better than some of the other movies he's directed. So I actually am really looking forward to checking this out one day. I think it can get it on Blu-ray or streaming. Some way I'm going to find a way to watch it, because I am curious about it. So there you go. That's my thoughts on The Indian Runner just from that trailer. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, we have two movies to look at, including Major League for College Football, Necessary Roughness, and also Goldie Hawn in a very different movie role for her, a thriller called Deceive. So we will look at both of those movies next time around. But until then, thank you guys for watching. And as always, if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. And until then, as always, take care.